Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy. Mom, can we get NakeyJakey? We already have NakeyJakey at home, dear. NakeyJakey at home here. Now, if you've seen my last video and the title of this one, I think it's pretty clear to say I have an embarrassing passion for little minuscule things that no one except for obsessive losers like myself give any shit about.
Just my luck. Dorkfest continues.
But if you are like me and you're a turbo virgin, I am a gamer. Not because I don't have a life, but because I choose to have many. Then you probably watched an embarrassingly large amount of analysis videos, and you've heard these guys talk about how games immerse them, usually in very pleasant British or Australian accents. And it's my belief that atmosphere is a big reason for these immersive games. Now, what is atmosphere exactly? Well, allow me to tell you about it by just telling you a story about the first time I ever experienced atmosphere. When I was a kid, I enviously watched my brother play Ocarina of Time, forced to sit on the sidelines because if I did ask,
Sorry, little bitch, but this here game with this boy wearing a green skirt is a man's game. For me, a 15-year-old, and not for young boys like yourself. I know you entered the Danimal's Crush contest in hopes of meeting your idols, Zack and Cody, but you failed miserably in your attempts. You will never amount to anything in your life, constantly making these shitty YouTube videos in an effort to feel like you have purpose in life. But soon, it's going to become clear that you're going to get nowhere with this passion. And then, in realization that your life has no meaning, you will be stuck doing the job you hate, and it will eventually drive you to suicide.
so I, a hairy-chested, manly 6-year-old, baffled at the thought that I couldn't play this game, decided to take matters into my own hands. And so late at night, I snuck out of bed. My blood was pumping. This felt like a life-changing moment for me. I felt like I was opening the fucking Chamber of Secrets or something. And I gave the game a fat I booted up, and I was Adult Link in the Forest Temple. And this music starts playing, and this feeling I had never felt before envelops me. And I look around, and I turn off the game. I couldn't handle it. My dick shrinked 3 sizes that day, and I ran with it tucked between my legs because of that atmosphere. And now that you get it, let's talk about some games and moments in games that have great atmosphere. That Forest Temple is a great first example because it feels like a place that's long forgotten and overgrown. You got ghosts and acid-tripped hallways. It's that level of weird and creepy that in one way is unsettling, but in another is kind of inviting. And the music sounds like the shit I hear when I'm having a sleep paralysis nightmare and I can't move or scream, and at the end of my bed is just a dark figure just vibing around my room. Then you have the Shadow Temple with its corpse-cluttered walls and its blood that totally isn't blood, guys. Rated E for everybody. And that ambient haunting music with the chanting. And Dead Hand, which is single-handedly the only reason I could tell those chads with the slick black PlayStations that no, Nintendo is for grown-ups. But what really seals the deal is the context. When you come into this room and it tells you about Hyrule's bloody history of greed and hatred, which as a kid is just scary. But as a grown-up with a master's in Zelda lore, it just makes you think the scariest place in the game exists not because of Ganondorf, but because of the people you're actively helping. Who could forget one of the most impactful moments in gaming when you see Castletown go from this cheery, beautiful, happy place to a barren, destroyed wasteland full of redeads. I mean, for fuck's sake, back when I would go through the Temple of Time to speedrun puberty, I wouldn't roll, I wouldn't run, I walked because I thought rolling would soil the gods who crafted this magnificent structure made of pixels. The atmosphere made it feel like a sacred place, and me being the nerd I am, of course, had to walk because that's what a hero would do. The world of the Zelda games is full of atmosphere, but I think the one that does it the best is Majora's Mask. It feels like almost everything in the game is made to set an atmosphere. The transformation masks, which are taken from lost souls, the stilted, broken animations of the mask salesman, or the ever-present moon that you can see all the time throughout the game, which just gives you this sense of foreboding doom that is to come. But the most atmospheric moment are those final minutes before the moon actually falls. The music sounds hopeless and warped. Bells are alarming, the moon is closer than ever, there's an earthquake, and Termina has turned into a ghost town. But if you go to see the swordsman, who in prior days was acting super courageous, saying he was gonna cut the moon in half, but when you find him in these last moments, he's fucking terrified. He's just huddled in a corner. All that fake bravado just shattered. It's such a real and human reaction. Eco or Ico or Horned Boy Escort Adventures is another great example of atmosphere. It's not the best looking game, but that's not why it's great. It's that whimsical feeling of exploring a desolate, abandoned, Ghibli movie-like castle while holding your spirit waifu's hand as you explore giant bridges and sun-soaked windmill courtyards. It's that Lakitu controlled camera that lets you fucking see everywhere to give you the sense of how small you, a puny, furtive 5'9" king, are to these gargantuan, huge 6-foot structures. And most of all, it's that panic attack you get when you're away from your spirit waifu and you want to get to her before the shadow men come and take her away. But once you get to her hand again, everything is reassured and you get to sleep on the spirit couch as this beautiful, tranquil music plays. Bioshock wasn't revolutionary because of the graphics. It was the dark, submerged atmosphere of the underwater city of Rapture as you're seeing remnants of a once lived-in city. When Silent Hill 2 got remastered to the PS3 and they removed the fog, it was only worse, because the fog only added to the surreal atmosphere of that setting. Another great example of atmosphere is the world of the Pokemon games. It's why I can play this and boom, you're back here ready to help a Cubone come to terms with its mother's death and murder your rival's Raticate, supposedly, as creepypastas about Japanese children getting genjutsu'd into suicide and cursed game cartridges flood back into your consciousness, and before you start going crazy, you hit that fucking bike button as fast as fucking possible, and you're here, and you're safe. Everything's okay. Or how about Floroma Town? Whenever I hear those light guitar strings, I'm suddenly back in the comfy atmosphere of this little community full of flowers. It feels like a place I could smell. It just makes me want to go up on top of a hill and cuff my pants 64 times and scream, "Flower Boy is Tyler's best album!" Because atmosphere is so vague, it's not entitled to just one feeling. So, in one way, you can get completely lost in the atmosphere of the Dead Space games, in places like the Ishimura or the Concourse, because the developers put so much time and effort into the little things, like making the lighting its own character, or dressing up the set, leaving a shoe here, or papers here, or blood splattered here, to give you this horror atmosphere and make you feel uneasy wherever you go. But on the flip side, you can get lost, like me and my girlfriend did, in the world of Animal Crossing and its comfy ass atmosphere. She finally stopped watching Gossip Girl for 2 weeks to fish. Fucking fish. I'd come home to her showing me her collection and newly acquired debt, but that debt didn't matter because the atmosphere of Animal Crossing says, "Oh, are you 2 million in debt for that 4th room you got? That's chill, dog. You can pay it whenever the fuck you want." I'll never forget when my boy Michael, aka Bubba, came to my house, whipped down his giant ass backpack with his Xbox in it, which was already insane because if you know the lore, Michael's parents never let him bring his Xbox anywhere. But today was different. He says to me, "Hey bitch, I got Halo Reach." And we stayed up all night playing, getting sick headshots, contemplating whether or not we should stop this grunt party or if we should just fucking enjoy it because the vibes are fucking crazy right now. And seeing my boy, coolest guy ever, Emil, get fucking murdered. He had a fucking skull thing on his helmet. He was so fucking cool, god damn it. And then we enter Lone Wolf, and this imminent music starts playing that has a finality to it, and the words, "There'll be another time," flashes over the screen. And as we're trying to beat it, fueled on Mountain Dew Code Red, we start losing, and cracks start forming on the screen, and then this cutscene plays. And I remember us just sitting there, not really speaking to each other, just kind of being lost in that existential atmosphere. It felt like the boys at Bungie came out of my TV as my dad and had a conversation with me about death, which as a 12-year-old is kind of scary, but it also kind of made me happy that it came from a video game, which is I think that's special. But just when you think the atmosphere is all hopeless, this happens.
You had already passed the torch, and because of you, we found Halo, unlocked its secrets, shattered our enemy's resolve. Our victory, your victory, was so close. I wish you could have lived to see it. But you belong to Reach. Your body, your armor, all burned and turned to glass. Everything. Except your courage. That you gave to us. And with it, we can rebuild.
And if you know the Easter egg, you can even see the chief himself. Suddenly, the atmosphere turned hopeful, because our deaths did have meaning. If it wasn't for 6, it wasn't for us, there'd be no Halo. And this was the last game with Halo and Bungie together, but I will never forget this moment. Thank you, Bungie. Minecraft used to be made fun of the way Fortnite is, but now is remembered so fondly. And I think that's because of the atmosphere of being in Minecraft's world, mining and creating with friends and listening to fucking Sweden and just getting lost in the comfy, warm hug of that game's atmosphere. And it's only developed more in time, because now when you hear Sweden, there's a somberness to it. It's the sound of nostalgia. It's like getting recommended a Windows Movie Maker YouTube video from 11 years ago. It's the embodiment of Last Online 6 years ago. And that actually takes me to where I think atmosphere still lives on greatly, and that's in indie games. It's no wonder these games are always cited as being extremely immersive, because they've mastered the art of using atmosphere. I'll never forget my time in Hollow Knight, starting from the humble town of Dirtmouth and exploring areas of vegetation and beauty, and areas that make me shit my pants. They made the fucking caterpillar transform. I was not fucking expecting that. It's like the one thing that's usually always great about, like sweet to see, and then it fucking changed into a fucking bugmon. I'll never forget how in awe and hard I was after beating Journey, which, depending on how you play it, its atmosphere can be completely different. You can play it all alone as a vagabond exploring the world in complete solitude. Or because they made the co-op system feed into the atmosphere, you can be connected randomly to another player, and if they happen to have 2 hours to spare, you could have this beautiful fun-ass adventure with a friend going through some of the worst and best times, all while only being able to communicate through little bleep bloops. I think the best way to end this video is by talking about the series that I think uses atmosphere to its best. That series. These games have always been great at completely immersing me into their worlds through their atmosphere. I'll never forget moments like seeing Vendrick for the first time, only to find out he's a shell of the man that you thought he was. I'll never forget getting killed by the bagmen and then my loading screen taking longer than usual and me thinking, oh, it's just my PS4 having a heart attack again. But I didn't hear those blaring jet sounds, so I was confused. But then this cutscene starts playing and I start hearing Mongolian throat singing and I'm just in a completely new, terrifying place. And I was so shocked I couldn't freaking move my character. One, because I'm a nerd, and two, because whether I liked it or not, I was in this game. But more than just these single moments, the Soul series uses audio and level design and art direction to create these worlds and locations, all with distinct and immersive atmosphere. And honestly, it's kind of hard to describe how all these places make me feel, so I'm just gonna geek the fuck out and show you a bunch of ambience from a lot of them, all provided by visuals from this channel. Please check them out, they deserve way more subs. I think of places like the jail cells of Tower of Latria, where you're just being bombarded with all these sounds. You're hearing crickets, or the bells from the mind flares, or the weird, uncanny, enchanting singing, or the screaming of the undead, or the fucking screaming of Rydell.
Please, help me.
The faint little whispers in Duke's archives. The majesty of the Dragon Area, where you're just fucking seeing all these dragons flying around. The demented hags in Hemwick Char Lane just spinning around. The cold and disgraced Anor Londo in Dark Souls 3. Or even in areas that no one really talks about, like this little bridge section between Sen's Fortress and Undead Parish, which I honestly just sit here and listen to it sometimes. Really, the game not having music made it more atmospheric, because I would just listen to the birds here, or the sound of my armor as it clanks as I run. I totally didn't understand ASMR until I found these Dark Souls ambient sounds videos. I'm sorry. Atmosphere plays a huge part as to why these places feel so real and are so memorable to us. But if there's one type of atmosphere that I can only get from one of these games, which puts me in this like nostalgic mood, despite like I wasn't actually there, but it feels like let me explain. This right here is the Japanese cover of Dark Souls 1, and I think it perfectly personifies what it felt like playing Dark Souls 1. Sure, you had your ethereal awe of seeing Ash Lake for the first time. Or the dark depths of the Tomb of Giants, where all you're hearing is the breathing of fucking skeleton dogs. Because this game had these locations and this bleak world that forced me to only move forward by walking slowly with my shield up, looking at every fucking corner, and you know it's bad when in real life I'm actually looking at the corners of my fucking TV as if I'm gonna see some shit my character won't. Because all this chaos was happening on the outside world, it made just sitting at these bonfires feel that much more safe, and it was just this lucid, comfy feeling that made you want to just sit there way longer than you ever needed to. Because there was no warping in the first half of the game, these bonfires felt like your home. So when you make great progress, but you've been double-fisted beyond repair, fucking cursed, broken weapon, zero Estus, but then you see a bonfire, and then you run to it, and you sit down, and you put your controller down, and you just listen to the crackling of the bonfire. It's dorky to say, but these bonfires made me feel like a wanderer exploring a rotting world, and this was my only source of safety and solace. Yep. That's home. What's up, boss? Atmosphere is important because it's something games can do in a way that no other medium can. because of them being interactive. Sure, graphics are great, but that's not what you're gonna hold with you after you beat a game. It's that feeling that you wish you could experience all over again for the first time. And listen, I could sit here and tell you all day about games with atmosphere, but that'll never give you the full experience of it. You can only get that from playing the game. When the creator of Dark Souls, Miyazaki, first played Ico, what do you think made him quit his higher paying job to pursue his purpose of making video games? I don't think it was the graphics or combat. I think it was the unique immersion and atmosphere that did that, because that's what great art does. It doesn't try to be another form of art. Video games shouldn't try to be movies. They should use the fact that they are a video game to their strength and make certain feelings and atmospheres that only that video game can make. Because when art does things like that, it makes people like Miyazaki want to be better versions of themselves. I feel it when I play games like this. I feel it when I watch anime like this. And I feel that especially when I listen to a fucking J Dilla beat like this. And if understandably you're sitting there wondering, what does atmosphere in video games have to do with all this better your life mumbo jumbo? Well, I can't really explain it, but for whatever reason, whenever any type of art puts in passion and effort into making a wholly unique experience, it just fills me with all this motivation to want to rise up and finally feel better about my sorry ass and defeat my evil brother and tell him, you know what? You're right. Life is meaningless. But you know what? That's my favorite thing about life. Because it has no meaning, I can give it my own meaning and my own purpose. And right now, that purpose is making dog shit videos on the internet about the shit I love. So if you're gonna tell me, oh, life is meaningless, all I can say to that is, fuck yeah it is. I want to thank a big inspiration to not only this video, but this channel itself, which is this channel, which if you look at it, it's just a bunch of remixes and music themes from video games. But how I found it was I got randomly recommended a video with all Japanese letters, and it was from like 7 years ago. I don't know, YouTube's algorithm is an enigma. But what really inspired me wasn't the video itself, it was the comments. Some of the comments were greeting you, saying things like, now that you've been recommended here, you're the main character. But a lot of them were just people giving these video game-like checkpoints about their lives. It could be good things, or it could be bad things. It could be finding happiness with the girl you love, or it could be about dealing with suicide. Or, you know, just taking a fat poop. It felt like I found an internet Easter egg. And as I was seeing these people giving these checkpoints, the whole atmosphere of it inspired me, because much like the atmosphere in video games, something like this can only exist in this space. My goal is that you won't just search up the channel. The best way to find it is to just let yourself be recommended by it, and then you too can join this gathering of outsiders and sad people as we sit at the edge of the internet. Which leads me to the making of this channel. I saw this comment, and then I wanted to make a channel like that, where people can come together and talk about anime or video games or whatever the hell they like. That's why it's the internet Pitstop. That's why I say that loser, silly line at the end of my videos, you know, the one that goes, thank you all so much for watching, leave a like and subscribe if you like what I do, and please leave a comment similar to these, because I think they're a lot of fun. And most of all, thank you all so much for coming to this little pit stop on the corner of the internet. Peace.